When you're standing in front of a commercial-grade coffee machine for the first time, the biggest question is usually, will this actually make my coffee service smoother, or am I just adding another piece of equipment that sits idle most days? That hesitation is especially real for small offices, boutique cafes, or anyone who needs a steady flow of coffee without the constant kettle-on-the-counter routine. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. And I'm going to walk through what the Bunn 35900.0010 BrewWISE really does in day-to-day use, where the value shows up, and who will get the most out of it. Let's start with the core promise: a brewer that can move up to 18.9 gallons of coffee per hour. In plain terms, that translates to roughly 158-ounce cups every 60 minutes. For a busy break room that serves 3,040 people, that means you can keep a full carafe on the hot plate while still pulling a fresh brew for the next wave of hungry coworkers. The speed is not just a brag-worthy number. It actually cuts down the line time during peak moments. Think a Monday morning rush or a post-lunch slump when people are scrambling for that caffeine boost. The BrewWISE's digital temperature control is another piece that feels less like a gimmick and more like a practical tool once you get the hang of it. You can set the brew temperature anywhere between 190 and 205 F, which matters if you're particular about flavor consistency. I've seen offices where the coffee ends up tasting burnt because the machine defaults to a higher temperature after a few cycles. With the BrewWISE, you lock in the exact setting you prefer, and it stays there. That eliminates the guess and check that many smaller brewers force you into, and it reduces the need for a separate temperature checking step. A large spray head and a Splashguard funnel are the other hardware touches that become obvious only after you've tried loading the machine a few times. The spray head spreads water evenly across the coffee grounds, which helps avoid those channeling spots where water rushes through too quickly and leaves weak coffee behind. The Splashguard funnel, meanwhile, keeps the top of the hopper tidy, no more coffee grounds spilling onto the counter when you're refilling a half-full batch. In a high-traffic environment, those small conveniences keep the workspace cleaner and the brewing process smoother. Now, let's talk about who actually benefits from these features. If you run a CAF that serves a constant stream of customers, or you manage a corporate kitchen that supplies coffee for 50-plus employees, the BrewWISE's capacity and temperature precision can pay for itself in reduced wait times and a more consistent cup. It also works well for event planners who need to serve coffee at conferences or trade shows. You can set up the machine, fill a large reservoir, and let it run unattended while you focus on other logistics. The digital display makes it easy for a staff member who isn't a coffee aficionado to verify the temperature and see when the brew cycle is complete. On the flip side, the machine isn't a perfect fit for everyone. If you run a tiny office of 5 or a home-based business that only makes a couple of pots a day, you'll likely never tap into the 18.9 gallon per hour capacity. In that scenario, the Bunn ends up being more of a space eater than a time saver, and the upfront cost may not be justified when a smaller drip brewer could do the job for a fraction of the price. Additionally, because the BrewWISE is built for commercial throughput, it consumes more electricity than a standard residential unit. For someone watching the utility bill closely, that hidden operating cost is something to weigh. One practical weakness that surfaces after a week or two of regular use is the cleaning routine. The large spray head and the funnel are easy to disassemble, but the internal water lines still need a thorough flush every few days to prevent mineral buildup, especially if you have hard water. The machine doesn't come with an automated cleaning cycle, so you'll need to schedule manual descales. For a business that already has a cleaning protocol, this is manageable, but it adds an extra step that a smaller operation might find cumbersome. Another point to consider is noise. The BrewWISE pumps water at a high rate to hit that 18.9 gallon per hour mark, and the motor can be audible from across a modestly sized break room. It's not a deafening roar, but if your office has an open floor plan and you're trying to keep the environment quiet during a conference call, you might notice the hum. The noise level is a trade-off you get for that rapid brewing speed, and it's something to keep in mind when placing the unit. Durability is often a selling point for commercial equipment, and Bunn's reputation in the coffee world supports that. The BrewWISE's housing feels solid, and the LCD panel is recessed enough to avoid accidental taps. However, the LCD is limited to temperature readout and a simple brew complete. Indicator there are no advanced diagnostics or connectivity features. If you were hoping